Welcome to the Virtual Strategic Solutions Virtual Reality Simulation System. Accessing Legacy Dataset. Files loaded. Simulation ready. The Yangtze 31 is a submerged, barely functional Chinese submarine found in Fallout 4. When first discovered by the sole survivor in 2287, it is lodged in the shallow waters of Boston Harbor south of Boston Airport and northeast of the Four-Leaf fish packing plant. The submarine is not marked on the map until the sole survivor swims out to it. Upon discovery, the quest, Here There Be Monsters, will automatically be started if it hasn't been received already from Donnie Kowalski near the Shamrock Tap House. Yangtze is a Yangtze-class stealth submarine, referred to as Liao-class Type 113 in the game guide, of the Chinese People's Liberation Army Navy. It is a nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine commanded by Captain Zao. Shortly before the Great War, the Yangtze was on deployment with a payload of 6 warheads and an unknown number of tactical nuclear missiles and torpedoes. When the Great War began, the Yangtze's captain obeyed his orders to fire the submarine's strategic nuclear weapons at their targets. All but one of the missiles were successfully launched. Shortly after firing its strategic missiles, the Yangtze 31 struck a mine that severely damaged her reactor and forced her to seek shelter in Boston Harbor. The damage caused a reactor leak that immobilized the sub and ultimately killed or ghoulified the crew of approximately 24 men, of which only Zao retained his sanity. Unlike the only other Chinese submarine the player character can personally encounter in the series, SSN 371A, the Yangtze is a full-scale combat vessel with extensive crew amenities and visible missile and torpedo tubes. The Yangtze has 3 large propellers, one on each side and a third under the reactor control room, as well as a smaller propeller at the rear of the submarine with the rudder. Upon entering the ship, the first room the sole survivor comes to is the bridge where Zao is located. Down the stairs is the reactor control room, with a small radio room on the left side ahead. North of the reactor room on the upper level is a small room that contains 2 decontamination showers and an expert terminal locked door with a stairway to the lower level. There is also a small science lab with a chemistry station. North of the crew quarters are 2 doorways that lead to a single stairway down into a room with a workshop containing a weapons workbench. The next room to the south is a small room before the reactor room, which contains a terminal locked door to the stairway to the upper level. Once in the submarine, one can speak to Captain Zao, who is located in the first main room. He questions why the sole survivor is there, remarking that the war is long over, and tells them that he has no treasure on board to plunder. He will go on to explain how his submarine ended up as it is, and express surprise that he's been there for over 200 years already. He will then share that his ship is no longer seaworthy, and will ask for help fixing it. Once the player character agrees to help, he advises that a dampening coil has been damaged and that he needs a new one, of which his wartime intelligence told him could be found in Saugus Ironworks. At this point, he can be pushed into 3 different rewards with speech checks of increasing difficulty. He'll start by offering pre-war money, stating it must still have some value. He will offer caps if pushed further, and if the final speech check is passed, he will reluctantly offer his sword as a final reward. If Out of the Fire has already been completed, the dampening coil may already be in the player character's possession. If so, there will be a speech option to hand it over. Traveling to Saugus Ironworks, located directly south of the Slog, reveals several enemies known as the Forged, who populate and defend the inside and outside of the building. They wield flamers and will use Molotov cocktails. If this location has already been explored and cleared out before, additional enemies may not be present. The dampening coil is located within the blast furnace inside of the building. To reach this room, one must traverse the ground floor to the uppermost floor, cross the middle of the room to the other half of the building, and then climb back down again. The blast furnace is found near the front of the second half of the building, right in front of the door leading to the roof of the complex. The blast furnace is inhabited by Slag, the leader of the Forged, and entering the room will initiate dialogue with him. It may be possible to retrieve the dampening coil without killing him and the others inside, but they will attack the player character at the end of the dialogue regardless. Once Slag is defeated and the others in the room dealt with, The dampening coil can be found in the back right part of the room on the ground level, as part of a large blue circular button. Take it and travel back to the Yangtze. Upon returning, enter the submarine and speak with Zao again. He'll be ecstatic at the sole survivor's retrieval of the coil and go on to say he now needs nuclear fuel. He will say that during the Great War, one of the missiles on his submarine did not fire, and that this is what he will need the player character to find in the depths of his ship, warning them that his crew is still alive in the deeper parts of the vessel, and that they were not as fortunate as he was, as all have been turned into feral ghouls. Walk through the door leading to the bulkhead. Upon entering, several feral ghouls will be found roaming about. With the submarine rooms being so small, they'll need to be confronted as one travels further into the vessel. While there are many rooms, there's only ever one way to progress. Through this portion of the submarine, radiation levels can increase greatly at a consistent rate of 1 to 3 rads per second in the first room of the bulkhead, and upwards of over 20 rads per second in the middle of the room where the warhead is found. Eventually, the final room will be reached where the first mate, who has been transformed into a glowing one, is found. This is the room the warhead is found in, which can be taken once the first mate is defeated. From here, Zao will need to be spoken to once again. He will give instructions to insert the dampening coil into the submarine, followed by the warhead. If this is done in the reverse order, the submarine will explode, ending the quest and the sole survivor's life. Once this is done correctly, speak to Zao one final time. He will reward the player character with 3 homing beacons, each of which allows for 1 tactical nuclear strike, ending the quest. If any or all of the speech checks were passed at the beginning of the quest, he will also give them 4 stacks of pre-war money for the first passed speech check, 200 caps for the second passed speech check, and his unique sword, Zao's sword, as the result of passing all 3. At any point after entering the sub and speaking to Zao, one can return to Donnie and either tell him the monster swallowed them whole and that they had to cut it open from the inside, or tell him the truth, that it is just a submarine. After completing the quest, Travis Miles will report sightings of a submarine going out to sea. However, the Yangtze does not leave or move. The homing beacons can still be used regardless of Zao being alive or dead. Simulation completed. Please exit the pod, or have a technician select another file.